The following is an excerpt from the Monday, March 15, 2021 virtual Committee of the Whole meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission.
I believe that the next item on our agenda, DCM Chamberlain, is an opportunity for public comments for the Committee of the Whole. Do we have any public comments?
There is one at this time. If you hold for me for one moment.
Okay.
Jeff Messer, city resident. These 100% virtual meetings are making at least one commissioner tired. They are eager and ready to resume some form of in-person meetings. I absolutely agree. I've repeatedly asked the commission for 8 months now, since July 2020, to reestablish meetings with the public present. I've suggested hybrid meetings, outdoor meetings in the city parks, and limited attendance meetings. I asked the commission to have a discussion tonight about plans for resuming some form of in-person meeting. I asked Attorney Robinson to please inform the commission and public about the relevant restrictions that Governor Whitmer, via the State Department of Health, has placed on municipal meetings. Thank you.
And that is it.
Thank you so much. So on our special agenda items for the Committee of the Whole, we have something a little bit unusual this evening in that we have a motion for first reading, and that will be an action item, which we will not often have on our Committee of the Whole meeting. So at this point, I know we're going to have some discussion about it. Manager Ritzma, do you want to start that off? And at what time will the motion be appropriate?
Yeah, so thank you all. So we have a couple of items that we need to get done tonight. One is declaring a local state of emergency for the purpose of continuing virtual meetings past the March 31st date, and leaving it open till, Rich, I'm not sure, did it go to 6 months or the end of the year?
It goes until August.
August, okay.
2021.
So that's item number one. The second piece is creating our own emergency operations center. And so in other terms, we are going to be separating from the county's emergency operations center and become our own center, whereby we can directly deal with the state and also receive resources directly in the event of an emergency. So those are the two items that we have this evening. And Rich, do you want to add anything, or Jeff, or do you want to go to questions and answers or discussion?
Well,
Mayor.
Well, I can add something just briefly. And good evening, commissioners. Normally you don't see my face up here. The city attorney had a family emergency, so I am stepping in his place. And so he wanted me to just give you a little background on the new ordinance, proposed ordinance, chapter 12. And it's pursuant to the Emergency Management Act, MCL 30.401. And basically what it allows you to do, like City Manager Richland says, allows you to declare a state of emergency. Also allows the city manager to appoint a emergency coordinator and things like that. So basically, for the purposes of the Open Meetings Act, it allows you to extend the virtual meetings until August 31st of 2021. So if you have any more questions, I can answer those, hopefully. So
questions from commissioners? Commissioner Urban.
Yes, well, I can see that we can continue the way we've been doing it until the end of August if we want. But if we want to do as Jeff Messer suggests or some modification of that, at what point can we begin to have hybrid meetings? In other words, is this declaration going to the end of August? Is that prescriptive or is it permissive?
You, per the ordinance, the city commission has control of what it wants to do as far as if it wants to rescind that, it can. And you meet hybrid or in person if you so inclined to do.
Well,
so.
I'm hoping that in a few months, maybe by July 4th, we could go to at least to hybrid meetings. I'd like to be able to tell our constituents that we're not wedded to this form of communication until the end of August.
Manager Ritzma.
Yeah, Commissioner Urban, right now the restriction on being able to meet in person or not is dependent on the crowd size that can be allowed indoors. And presently it's at 25. So it's really difficult to have a meeting with a limit of 25 individuals when you include commission staff. And so right now that restriction is making it difficult to meet in person, but presumably those restrictions will be eased up between now and August. So we'll just keep monitoring that, and definitely hybrid meetings can become an interim step before we go full blown into in-person meetings.
Well, if I may say, 25, that's I can understand maybe that's a pretty strict limitation. But if we should go to 50, we rarely have 50 people there. And I think we have ways of handling overflow like we have in the past. I'm sympathetic to the request. And I just think we ought to be ready to move to hybrid meetings as soon as it's possible.
Any other questions for staff on this? Yeah, Commissioner Praedel.
No, we've received a few emails from the Michigan Municipal League, MML, suggesting that individuals reach out to their state representatives and senators to, effectively share our stance on whether or not the legislature should take action to extend the ability to hold virtual meetings. So do you have any sense, have you heard any more about whether you think this is making any headway in the legislature, whether it's likely that they're going to extend it? And then also just what implications if we were to vote on this tonight and then the legislature does step in and extend things? I'm just curious if you'd mind sharing that as well.
So I can touch on that briefly. Clyde, before when I talked to him earlier today, he said there's 3 bills right now in the state legislature. He's not confident that those would be passed. So that's why he recommended to do this fix until hopefully they do act. And if they do act, then of course, then we can revisit this. You as a body can revisit this. But as of right now, just to be for safety purposes, and as City Manager Ritzema just stated, that you can't have a lot of people indoors right now anyway. So for right now, this is the best recommended fix for our current situation.
Other questions? I'm sorry, Chris.
Sorry, I just had one more question as well. Well, actually, I have one for you, Mayor. So are we going to have an opportunity to discuss this after questions?
Yeah, I want a motion, then we can have discussion. Yeah.
Great. So my second question is, in terms of, what other municipalities are doing, are we, alone in a sea of other municipalities that are coming back in person? Or, I have to believe that if Michigan Municipal League is encouraging local elected leaders to reach out, that there is, similar interest from other municipalities to extend the virtual timeline. But I'm just curious if you have any sense about, what other communities are doing of our size or larger, in the state.
I believe Ann Arbor, where Attorney Robinson got the model for our ordinance. I think Ann Arbor and maybe even Grand Rapids are trying something similar. So I don't think we're alone on that. So,
and I know Battle Creek is meeting virtually in the county.
Any other questions for staff on this? Yeah, Commissioner Hess.
I'm just wondering what it would look like if we had a hybrid meeting. Would some people be on the screen and other people be around the dais? Or I'd be interested to know how then we would take public comment. Would we take it in person and virtually? Just questions for the techies out there.
If I could try to answer that. We also have to remember too, we're not talking about just a city commission. We're talking our boards and commissions too. So that's why we're having conversations, as the city manager said, with the other cities in the state of Michigan to answer a lot of those techie type questions. So that questions and scenarios of what if part of the board is there, but part of the board is virtual? How does public input work? So those are all questions that all the communities are struggling with right now. But we're talking together as communities to come up with solutions.
Right. And I just got a phone call not too long ago from a local attorney who represents the public library, which is in the city's jurisdiction, and they're struggling with this too. And so they wanted to see our ordinance and see if it would apply to the city. And you do have jurisdiction for the way it's written. I didn't ask Clay this, but the way my interpretation of how it's written, it does extend to the city and any public body that's within the city that is under the Open Meetings Act. So just to keep that in mind as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any other questions? Well, at this point, then we have, we need a motion to have a first reading of an ordinance to be adopted as an emergency measure to amend Chapter 12 of the Kalamazoo City Code to set forth emergency management protocols and permit the City Commission and other public bodies of the city, which are subject to the Open Meetings Act, to continue to meet by electronic means. So is there a motion to offer for first reading?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Cunningham, supported by Commissioner, sorry, I missed that.
Support.
Commissioner Knott, thank you so much. Discussion. Commissioner Cunningham.
I think as far as a hybrid, I would advise staff to, start really looking into what that process is so we can iron it out as best as possible. We don't want to run into some of the issues we ran into when we first went into strictly online. But I say that to say, I think going outdoors is a really good opportunity. And I think we should do that as soon as weather permits. Maybe even once a month, or we possibly probably do twice a month for our meetings per se. I'm not sure about the other boards. I think that should be board by board decision, but I would, as far as my opinions and thoughts, I think that would be a good opportunity to start that up and do it regularly until things get back to normal.
Yeah, Manager Ritzman.
To Commissioner Cunningham's point, we do own a large tent now, so we can be able to move that around and set that up for these meetings.
Commissioner Praedel.
Yeah, I got some pretty strong feelings about this, so please excuse me for the length I'm going to go at here, but going to go over the numbers again. 535,000 people dead in the United States, 16,759 people dead in the state of Michigan, 324 people dead in Kalamazoo County. Now, I think back to the instance of where, 7 cyclists were plowed down by a car. I think back to the Uber shooter and the fear and the concern over that. And to think that there are over 5 times the entire size and volume of Michigan's football stadium who have died in the United States, and that somehow, we are, comfortable with putting people whose circumstances we don't even fully understand at risk. The thing with HIPAA and all of the people who work for the city of Kalamazoo who we're asking to show up for work and report, whether it be ourselves, whether it be the people that we have to come and, be part of the meetings or to provide public comments in the meetings. We don't know each other's pre-existing health conditions. We don't know, what pre-existing conditions or higher risk categories that people who are on staff that we're asking to show up and report for could impact, not to mention if it's not even those individuals, the immediate family members of those individuals. I know personally that there are a number of people in senior level administration with the city and probably with us as well that have lost people due to COVID. And I feel like if we have it within our ability to, contain and be cautious, I think we should do everything in our power to try to hold off as long as we possibly can, at least till things stabilize or are, a significantly reduced threat where we can space and feel comfortable about it. The thing that, in terms of Mr. Messer's calls, I very much appreciate where he's coming from. But I think there's somehow this mentality that we're like, somehow loving and enjoying being in this like isolar, like ivory tower of this, dark office room that I'm in of my wife's right now, and love being behind a screen where I'm protected. To be honest with you, as a new commissioner, I hate this. I really do. I miss seeing everybody. I miss being able to, hug people and, find out what everybody's doing on city staff and have that face-to-face interaction. If there's anything in this world I could do to get out of this screen and be back up on the dais where we could look people in the face and look each other in the face, I would 100% do it. But I think that the misconception as well is that somehow we're disenfranchising people who now can't show up in person. Well, again, for that argument, what about the people who are afraid to come to meetings because they're afraid of an overabundant population of people in a room? What about seniors or people who are at a high risk who might say to themselves, man, I really feel strongly about the fact that this zoning is going to change the way my neighborhood works, but I'm not going to show up because I'm afraid I could catch COVID. What about those people? Don't those people have rights to, express their views and be a part of a public meeting? I think the answer is yes. And I think that there are actually far more people in this community who would choose to opt out of public participation than the people who would opt to show up and cram themselves in a little sardine box to express their views. And I'll share this last point as well. I can't speak that much because I've only been a commissioner for a year and some change. But I will tell you one thing, the difference between community engagement, the level of emails we received, and public comment. I mean, we had one commission meeting, we had to split into 2 meetings because there were so much public comments. And we have seen an unparalleled amount of public engagement on issues. I mean, meetings where we've had 70 plus people line up to make comments. And the thing is they don't have to wait. They can just leave the message. Before they'd have to stand in a hot room for sometimes hours to make their voice heard, but now they can sit and record something on a phone and walk away and have us be the ones who have to stick around to listen to it. And, I don't buy that rationale, and I struggle with it. And I understand where people's impatience is coming from and wanting to come back in person together. But I think that if we have an opportunity to extend it even a few more months, if that's what it takes, I think we should absolutely positively do everything in our power to do it. And, I don't know who we're keeping safe in the process, but I know that we're keeping people safe in the process. And when we lifted up our hand and swore to, live up to the charter and the U.S. Constitution, that included the health and safety of the people we serve. And I think, by God, if that means staying virtual to keep people safe, even if they don't care about their own safety, I care about their safety. And so that's how I feel. And I apologize for going on at length about this, but it's something I feel pretty strongly about.
Thank you, Commissioner Praedel. Commissioner Knott.
I'll start by thanking Chris. Thank you for being brave to say exactly what I've been thinking and saying privately to people for the last, several months. As this caller calls in and talks about, getting us back out there, everything that you said, I support 100%. And to the fact you a minute ago made a comment about enjoying it in the comfort of my dining room. I don't know if you saw my camera flicker on and off, but my partner came home and we joined the masses and got a COVID puppy, right? Which seemed like a good idea, which comes with all sorts of challenges. And of course, the puppy had pulled down some stuff, which caused a commotion. If I was at City Hall, I wouldn't have to deal with this BS to participate in this meeting. But that's just when you're trying to balance, and I know we're all doing it, being at home and sharing the space with kids or with partners, etc. So there's that point. There's also the point of I don't feel safe. I'm not going to get underneath a tent. We all were part of the tent experience when we went into community parks, and we recall the person that was in the tent smoking a cigar with all the mosquitoes. Not going to do it. It's just a few more months, and we're going to have higher percentages of those folks that are vaccinated, and that's when it makes sense. The other thing I will say, in my 9-to-5 job, we've at Equality Michigan seen an uptick in engagement and participation because we've had to go online. It's forced us to think about how do you reach out to your constituents and get people involved virtually. And I got to tell you, I'm seeing, as Chris mentioned, older people or people that just won't spend the time to come down to a meeting participating. And our engagement levels, from volunteering to commenting on legislation to some of the grassroots kind of lobby initiatives that we've been engaged in, have huge percentages of action in a way that we hadn't seen pre-pandemic. So I'm all for just sitting tight, keeping the community and the staff and all of the volunteers and ourselves safe, and coming back to meetings when it makes sense and when we have higher percentages of vaccinated community members.
Thank you, Commissioner Knott. Commissioner Urban?
Well, I appreciate what's been said here. I don't want to leave the impression that I'm eager to expose people. The ideal thing, in a way, is for us, through conversation with other municipalities and so forth, come up with a way to permanently have hybrid meetings that solve the problems that Commissioner Cunningham referred to. That would be ideal. But having said that, I just ask, is it appropriate for us to vote on something in committee of the whole meeting? I thought that one of the standing practices would be that we would vote on things like this, vote on anything at a regular meeting. Can we do that in our regular meeting and just have this time be time to discuss the issue? I just don't want to start a precedent that says we're going to vote on something at a committee of the whole meeting. We need to be rigorous, I think, in saying that there is nothing we're going to decide except at a regular business meeting, that you won't miss it if you are alert to those. So I just want to get a clarification on that.
So Commissioner Urban, this is on our business meeting agenda tonight.
Yes.
This item. This is the motion for the first reading. So that's what this is. I agree with you. I don't disagree with your comments. Attorney Chair, do you want to make any comments about that?
Yeah, what we are offering, as you said, Mayor Anderson, is this is your first meeting, or first to motion to offer for first reading. When we go to convene for the 7 o'clock, that's when you actually vote on the ordinance and make a determination whether or not to accept the ordinance as is, and also to pass a resolution for state of emergency right after that. So
you can vote to have a first reading, and then you can vote it down when it comes up, actually as an ordinance. It doesn't commit you in any way, shape, or form just by having the first reading. That's just the process you need to have in order for us to pass the ordinance. I'm sorry.
And all we're trying to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but all we're trying to do is to get it, because it's March 15th, and the the order or the statute is going to end at the end of the month. So we don't have another meeting unless you convene a special meeting. You don't have another meeting until the first week of April. So this is to allow us to be able to take action right away, because I think it's because that first meeting will not be virtual if you don't act on that today. So,
Manager Ritzman, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say what Rich just said. Plus, we do have, I think Clyde set committee of the whole meetings up where we can take action. So it is allowed. And for what Rich just said, with the deadline pending, we're left with very few options. So understand not making it precedent setting, but we also need to get things done too.
Commissioner Urban, did you want to say something more about that?
No, I understand now that I just think this is we have to watch about setting precedents, and I regard this situation as atypical. And as long as we recognize that in our record here, the reasons for doing the reason for doing this, I'll let it pass this time. Yeah.
Other discussion? Commissioner Cunningham.
I know I mentioned the outdoor meetings, but I just want to say thank you to Chris also for his statements, because everything that he stated was very true, very relevant, and I think very important, and more important than us gathering as soon as possible. Right now is not the time to do that. A, B, when it comes to the outdoor opportunity, I'm not opposed to it. So if I have colleagues who are, then stand behind them. And if we were to, I agree, Commissioner Knott. I'm not sure doing it under intent would be the way that I would want that to take place. So just want to follow back around.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Any other discussion? Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Mayor, sorry, I forgot one other point I wrote down, if you mind sharing.
I'm sorry.
So the other thing too is about, again, this is coming from a person who managed events for a living and did a lot of large tents outside. So it's all great and dandy, but we live in the state of Michigan. And, how is public participation going to be when that thunderstorm rolls through, or it's down in rain, or it's in a park that isn't accessible to other parts of the city? So, I think we just have to keep in mind all those other things that in first brush, it might seem like an added ability for accessibility, but even if we take steps that we think are accessible, they might be removing other people from the process unintentionally. So I was just going to share that as well.
Sorry, I missed you, Commissioner Praedel. Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Knott,
Yes.
Commissioner Praedel,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up icon located outside of the video window. Then leave a comment and press the subscribe button to see more videos like this and everything Kalamazoo.